Welcome back. We are glad you are still with us. In case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. This is Good Morning Kenya. I am Jain Wambui. Glad you have chosen to start your morning with us, and you are right in time for our next conversation. But remember, you can be a part of these conversations. Questions, comments, clarification, anything that you may be needing in regards to the conversations that we get to have here, we welcome you to contribute to them using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter at KBC Channel 1. Ever remains to be the official station handle. My handle is at Jain Wambui across all the social media platforms. Much love going out to everyone who has already tuned in. Dan Chebi, I see you. Richard Mohia Boro na kuona hapo. Let me also see at Instagram Alfred. Thank you for tuning in. Juma CJ, we appreciate you. Jared Ombue, MW Ken Kiptanui, William Waburi, Amerix, thank you so much for tuning and retweeting all our feed. Moses Wagora, thank you so much. Westlands Avenue Consult, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate all of you who have already tuned in. Keep talking to us. Check in. We'd love to know where you're watching us from, because as we always say, Kenya's listening, Kenya is watching right here on Good Morning Kenya. Now, we get to the next conversation, and this is about the construction industry. Many a times you get to that point in life where you want to venture into the real estate sector for business or for residential purposes. And most of the time, we never have the technical expertise as a common mwananchi to know what we need to know when we're getting into the whole mjengo sector. And that is what we want to talk about today, to just help you understand the basics when it comes to construction, what you need to expect, what is the actual path and the professionals that you need to be working with, as opposed to you being in charge of your mjengo. In as much as we cannot help ourselves, today we're going to be learning from the professionals, and we have three gentlemen with us in studio this morning to help us with this conversation. I'll start with the gent to my extreme right. He is John Mwaniki, who is an architect. Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
At the center, we have Alfred Aluvaala, who is a quantity surveyor. Good morning, Alfred.
Morning, and thank you for having me today.
Karibu sana, thank you for making time to be with us. And finally, to my closest right, we have Evans Goro, who is a structural and a civil engineer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana. All right.
And see that the people can learn something about how they live.
Absolutely. We never know how those structures come up. We just see a skeleton, a roof, grills, glasses, painting, finishing. We'll get into the details. But before we even get to this conversation, I was just looking at some stats, and this is a report that was put together by the Kenya construction industry, dated the 8th of March 2021. Just looking at 2019, the construction industry contributed 5.6% of the GDP of Kenya, which translates to about 222,000 employment opportunities for Kenyans. And also looking at the larger East African space, there are 43 grand structures, and 11 of them are in Kenya. That just goes to show you how much the construction industry has a fortitude, and especially to the Kenya's economy. But let me start with you, Engineer Goro. You know, we've had you before, and still talking about the construction industry in Kenya, your personal view on how we are doing as a country when it comes to the construction and building industry as a whole, generally speaking.
Well, touching on the tips of everything, the construction industry has a big hold on Kenyans and their lives. But the Kenyans do not know how to let it work for them. One, because there are so many middlemen who come in and purport cartoon play with a developer who has the money. So by things not working right, the developer who has the money becomes a big loser. So here we like those who would like to have space usable, to use the proper channels to do it right and get more benefit than so-called letting the fundi do what he did in the neighbor's compound.
Yes. Nataka kama hile. Let me come to you, Alfred. You know, just looking at the construction space in Kenya, how would you characterize it from what you have seen in your line of duty?
Construction industry is a very vital factor within the economy.
Yes.
It employs very many people. If you just pass across near a construction, you'll see the number of people involved in putting it up.
Yes.
And if you put up your house, you are putting up probably a masonette. The number of people who will come there will be very many. Professionals will be involved. When you pay that professional, he has go and pay other bills, including the house girl. The house girl will go and take money up country to go and pay other people.
Bills, yeah.
So it is a multiply effect, and across the board. So when we come up with construction, it helps very many people, and it spurs up the economy, and the economy becomes very vibrant.
Absolutely. And also I'd like to get your thoughts on the same, John. You're just looking at the construction industry, the building industry in Kenya, our cultures, and your interaction with the people and other professionals. How would you describe or characterize it?
It's very interesting. If you look at how we grew up, I'm sure everyone has an experience with a building somewhere. And as we are growing up, you'll find that most of us saw buildings just coming up. You know, you just take a fundi, kanyaga steps, and, just do your steps and put up a building. And I think that's where most of us think that a building is something easy to put up. But as time goes on, we've seen Kenyans actually embracing the use of professionals gradually. We are not there yet, but gradually
we are making strides.
We are making strides. Yes. We still have a challenge. We're still not yet there where people understand the role of an architect, the role of a quantity surveyor, the role of professionals in the building industry. But we are making progress, and we wish to. Actually, that's one of the reasons why we are here, to enlighten the public on the role of the various professions and the importance of having professionals in their various constructions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I like the fact that you've brought out the whole architect bit, which is your area of specification.
Yes.
Because just speaking from personal experience, I remember when my father was putting up our home, and I was part of the drawing process. I want my closet to be like this, my room to be like this. And when the blueprint came, and finally when the skeleton was coming up, I was like, it wasn't like this, and see, that is something that so many people do. You just put up a rough sketch of what you want your house to look like and expect it to be like that to the T's. But understanding your role as an architect, maybe help us better understand why, as an architect, you are needed there to ensure that the structure that is put on paper is what that can actually be put up on the ground, and why our specifications sometimes might not be as practical as we want them to be.
Yeah, you're touching on the role of an architect, basically, and the role of professionals in the construction industry.
Professional architect.
A professional architect. There is no other architect. There's just a professional architect. The others are quacks, for lack of a better. Not the self-proclaimed one. Yes. So, an architect is a designer. He's a guy who understands and plans. Will understand the built, the spaces that you're looking at. He will come. It starts the same way you're saying. Put a sketch down, then calling the guy, the architect, to put your thoughts into proper working spaces, a proper working building. So what does an architect do? He will come in first, understand the client's brief, and of course now design based on what you need, and go on the ground and understand the surrounding. There's so many other factors that you look at. There's the ground, neighboring activities, the neighboring structures. It will go down to a small thing like the sandpath.
Imagine that.
Ventilation. Small factors that you will think is just a matter of giving spaces and, but an architect understands the effect of the environment into the space. Why you don't need light during the day. If it's a house, he'll know how to position all those factors. So the architect and the architect will come in and put that on paper. That's why maybe when you're doing it, it's just a layman's way of saying, I want my toilet here, I want this here, I want my kitchen here, but you'll come in and marry all those factors, all those demands and all those desires into something that is workable.
Okay.
Yes.
I think that workable bit is where most of us struggle with, because if it doesn't come out like this, you're not doing your job.
Yes.
And we're quick to blame you.
If I can just add on.
Yeah, sure.
What my colleague is saying is, you come with a story.
Yes.
I want my house to look like this. Probably you went to your friend's house called Anne, and Anne gave you a description. You saw it and you wanted something like that. But because Anne's house looks like that because it is at a particular place.
Yes.
But when you ask Mwaniki to come in and give a design, it can't be exactly like Anne because your environment is slightly different.
Yes.
So once it is different, so he is trained to twist your house to fit. It's like going to a shop. Do you want to buy a ready-made dress, or do you want it fitted?
To be tailor-made, yeah.
So that's now. So they want they want to tailor-make your house. So you come and give him a story. He changes your story into a drawing, so that it can be done.
Absolutely. And we'll be getting some of the challenges that you get to deal with, and especially when it comes to convincing the client that this is not possible here. Okay? There's a slope. You can't have this kind of house. And we'll be getting to those challenges in a bit. But let me just come back to you, Alfred.
Yes.
Understanding the role of a quantity surveyor when it comes to the whole structural and construction bit of it all. Help us better understand that.
Yes. Who is a quantity surveyor? A quantity surveyor is the legal and financial advisor to the whole team.
Okay.
When I call a team, we are talking of the client, you who is putting up the building, my colleagues, the architect, the engineer, because when we come in, we are now going to tell them concerning the amount of money. Let me put in the layman's language, the amount of money you are going to use into what Mwaniki has designed. Mwaniki, you have given a very elaborate story.
Yes.
I want a house that looks like this. I want to place things like this, and so on and so forth. Mwaniki will put it down, and then he'll bring it to me. Alfred, how much does it cost? And then there is the way we have been trained from the university. We are trained how to compute and calculate the figures, and then we come and tell you this is how it has been done. Mwaniki will have designed that building. He'll have given to Engineer Goro to come up with his structural design that comes in, and then they will all come back to me concerning the costs, the money bit. So I will now tell them, you guys, what you have designed, this amount is coming to, say, 100 million. You say, no, me, I had only 85 million. Then we shall come back and sit down and come back and what we call value engineering.
Okay.
By that one, what can we adjust to fit in the 85? Now, that becomes my role.
Okay.
That is the construction, the money bit. The legal bit is now the contract. The quantity surveyor will come and advise you the contract you should use. Is it open tender? Is it single sourcing? Is it whatever? So we shall tell you, for this project yours, the best way to do it is this particular way.
Okay.
Among many other things.
So it's actually in the name, the quantity.
Yes, exactly.
The first bit of it, at least as per what I'm understanding.
Yes.
You help in understanding the quantity of what will be needed to bring that structure to life.
Basically surveying everything, that the quantities that have been put together, and then we compute them and quantify and advise.
All right. Then therein you mentioned Engineer Goro comes in as the civil and structural engineer. What is the role, first of all, when it comes to the whole construction bit, and why is it important to have an engineer on ground for any constructions that may be looking to be put up?
Yeah, now I will start from where the architect was.
Yes.
The architect has developed space the way you want it. But for this space to be usable, you will need the engineers. There's structural, there's civil, there's electrical, there's mechanical. And you surely do know you need the water, you need to dispose the waste, you need the building that is not collapsing. So for the architectural requirements to take place, you will need the engineers to come into place and provide those designs that will make that space usable to your requirement, the developer.
Yes.
And with all those in controls, we are also in touch with the quantity surveyor to look at the costs. Just like saying, I want a 43-inch TV. Somebody else says, I want a 54-inch TV. It depends on your demand and your financial capacity.
Yes.
That's where the engineer now comes into actual play. Before we get to the site, we work on papers. But of late, we have seen developers of what they call family houses, they go to building before they get it drawn.
Yes.
And that is a very risky business. It is ongoing. I don't know why it is happening, but it is very good for Kenyans to know that any building put up anywhere on the soils of Kenya must be approved by that local authority. And that local authority will approve it because the architects and the engineers have participated in it. And when we call an architect or engineer, these are registered people with a practicing license.
Yes.
If you call yourself an architect or an engineer and you don't have that capacity, the laws of Kenya are very clear. Chapter 525 and chapter 430 will tell you how long you will go into jail by using that word, which is that title that is not yours.
Yes. Yes. Now, let me come back to you, Alfred. You know, I like the fact that you've brought in the whole registration process of the professionals that are required in this industry. But looking at the informal sector, which is sadly where we get so many people going about giving themselves these titles, putting up structures and akuja na chalk and a chora when it's supposed to be, and construction starts when there isn't actually the blueprints from the architect. When it comes to sort of streamlining the informal sector and consequently helping bring down the number of buildings that we see collapse, what do you think can be done to just tame the informal sector and all the quacks that are thriving in that sector specifically?
The government comes in, because any construction that takes place anywhere is supposed to be known by the government. Because if somebody, say an Onyango, wants to put up a structure in an informal sector, and that particular person has to get permission, has to get approval, and we have got people who look into these things, who move around checking on every construction. Take an example. Even if you stay anywhere, say Buruburu, and you start constructing at 8 in the morning, by 8:30 or 9, somebody will be knocking there. Let me look at your papers. And these people, the county government people, are always moving around.
Yes.
Now, you are not supposed to continue unless you prove that you have the approvals. So if the things go on, it means somebody somewhere just closed his eye. He allowed something to go on. He has allowed quacks to thrive, and they have not stopped them. The right person will be stopped, but people who are crooked, who may want to use other crooked means, they will cut corners and continue. The buildings you see collapsing is because somebody somewhere just cut corners. He did not want to follow the right route, and when he was asked, he talked the language that wanted to. Remember when we had vehicles competing in Naivasha? I don't know whether you heard of it. There was this Ugandan who came in and was asked, how did you reach here? He said, I talked the language the people on the border understood, and they allowed me in. So that language where people, wrong language that people are talking, they allow many things to go wrong, and then the buildings collapse.
Okay. Now, let me come to you, John, and talk a bit about the whole coming up with the blueprint for the house, the structural, at least the pictorial bit of it all. Maybe you could give us the proper terminologies. I'm also here to learn. And from an interaction I had with a few persons before this, there was one who was saying that the structurals, designs that you come up with are quite expensive, and especially for residential purposes. What informs the financial bit of what you put together as an architect?
Before the design process starts, I have to pick what they have in mind together with the budget. When I go back to the drawing board, whatever I'm going to design has to be informed by the budget. One of the challenges we have nowadays is the client will want the designs first.
Yes.
Then once you hit them with the figures, you're like, now let's go back. I need to chop it, this chop is, you know, downscale.
Yes.
But it would be so much helpful to us if you started with the information about how much you're willing to budget for. The issue of cost, I don't know where it's coming on when you say the structure is expensive. Comparing to what? What are you comparing it to decide that it's expensive?
Or is it the fees?
I think that
is it the fees?
You sell the design of what you put up.
Yes. Basically, we are selling the design to you. You need to understand, most of the guys, actually Kenyans need to understand that involving professionals in the build industry is not an expensive affair. Actually, having not involved them, the after effects later will be more expensive than you'd have rather involved them from the word go. And yes, you're coming to a professional, you have to pay the professional. You have to pay the professional for you to get a product that you will actually appreciate afterwards.
All right.
There are two ways to go about it. Avoid using the professional, you pay for it, and you'll have a shoddy project, or shoddy product. But the moment you involve for professionals, eventually you have a product that you'll be satisfied with at the end of it all. I don't know if I've answered your question.
Absolutely. Yes, you can add on to that.
You know, when you touch money, you are touching me. When you touch money, you are touching the area where my heartbeat is.
Yes.
Now, when you say the design is expensive, actually, your mouth is the one which is expensive.
Because you are speaking from what I told you.
Exactly. Okay. You have said, I want a house, the lounge should be like this. I want my kitchen to appear like this. I want the worktop on top of it to be what finished top, very expensive, and the shelves to be like this. All those things you are talking about is money. So whatever you are saying, what you would want in your building, I want my bedroom to be this size, small or big. I want the ceiling to be gypsum and not blockboard, whichever way you want. All that is money. So when after you have spoken all that story, Mark, you are saying it, and the architect is not drawing, he is writing down what he says, a brief. What you called brief. You are briefing him. You are telling him, okay, I want this, and he's writing. When he goes to this office, then he translates what you briefed him to be into a drawing. And then that drawing is now what we price.
Yes.
So actually that design is you. It's not even him.
It is not the architect that is expensive.
Yes, it's you who said, I want this. So he has told you, okay, is this what you wanted? And then you say, exactly, yes, this design is what I wanted. So when I cost it, actually, I'm just costing what you said. All
right. Now, speaking of costings, let's get a bit practical.
Yes.
For someone who's looking to put up a home.
Yes.
For, retirement and that space, and they're looking to put out, let's say, a 4-bedroom house and a detached SQ. What are the figures that they could be looking at? And this is a bungalow for that matter. What are the figures that you can mentally prepare them for such a project, so that when they're embarking on it, they don't start saying, "Ai, apa, this is too much. Acha niende kwa ule mwingine yake alikuanga chini kidogo."
Yes, there are very many factors that we use. When you say a 4-bedroomed, each bedroom
self-contained.
Exactly. 4 meters by 4 meters, 7 meters by whatever. Yes. So you can see we have various methods we use for cost estimates. Before it is designed, we can give something, probably if it is so many square meters, it could be in this region. And if it is so many others, so it becomes area. But if we have had a discussion with the Mwaniki and he has sketched and we have some quantity, some figures which we can easily calculate, then that one again we use another method which we call approximate quantities. So there are various methods we use to arrive at initial advice to you. And at the same time, it is very difficult to say just a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom because like if I'm using square area methods to advise you on the estimate, again it will depend on how wide, how big and so on and so forth.
All right.
So immediate, but if we were to get, again, what will go into that building, it can be 100 square meters for two buildings, but the way you have finished the two is different. Again, the cost will be different.
It'll be different.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand the variation there.
Yes.
You see, this is why this is a learning process. Let me come to you, engineer, as you add on to that.
Yeah. Now, I'm looking at a developer, a retiring family.
Yes.
That have bought a plot in Rongai or Kitengela, and they want to put up a house. The kids are big. They want
space enough for them to come with their families.
He is saying you want so many bedrooms. You are the one who is saying what you want to spend. But through the guidance of the conservator, he can tell you if your level of finishes, you want the PVC tiles, you want carpet, you want ceramics, look at so many shillings per square meter. Then start sizing your bedroom, start sizing your kitchen. Then with that total area, the architect will tell you, no, this bedroom is too small or it's too big. Now, with all of us together, you want how many? Self-contained bathrooms.
Yes.
All of them.
All of them.
Yes. I guess toilet.
The sinks,
yes.
wash hand basins.
All that, with your mouth controlling us, we can tell you, okay, Banakios, guide us on this one. Where within the ranks of those briefs she's giving, can we put her? He will say 40,000 per square meter. Put up 45,000 per square meter.
Okay.
Then you'll go as a family and start drawing it in your head. This house is so many square meters times 45. You need to look for this money. Then you go back to the architect. You adjust space. That is how the proper building industry works.
It's a cycle that keeps going round and round, to there, to there.
I saw Anne's house. Let's build like car. Who was the food bringing?
Okay, I think let me interject at that particular point. We'll be back to talk about Anne's house. But in the meantime, keep sending your questions. Remember, as basic or as complex as they may be, this is a learning space and we welcome anything that you may be needing addressed. Hashtag still remains to be Good Morning Kenya. Stay with us. We'll be back after this very quick breather. Welcome back. Just going through some of your feeds and I appreciate them so far. There's one that has brought up something that we've just talked about with Engineer. I'll be mentioning that once we get to that particular segment of this discussion. But in case you're just joining us, karibu sana. This is still Good Morning Kenya. We are having a conversation about the construction sector in our country, and of course we welcome you to be part of this using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya. Now let me come back to you. Let me start with you, Engineer Goro. When you talk about the structural integrity of any building, be it for residential purposes or for commercial purposes for that matter, what are the aspects or factors that you as an engineer deem vital before we even break ground to ensure the integrity of that building will not be compromised at any level or at any point?
Yeah, that's very crucial, because the structural aspect of it will also control the architectural input.
Yes.
How good is the ground, the formation? Where am I going to put these foundations?
How deep you're going to go?
How deep am I going to go? We will find that sometimes we have to go so deep to find stable ground, and that height, the architect might say, let's not dig it out and backfill it. I can use it as a space for the client to do something there. So we have to work together. Before we get too far, we must go and see where that building, be it residential or commercial, is going to be placed.
Yes.
Then we do sample pits. We dig. and we see how far we can go, and also how far we can go between the consultants. We start developing you into the idea of there's ground, you can't do it with the fundis, you need a contractor of this capacity because of maybe of the digging and all those aspects.
Yeah.
So when we come up as a structural engineer, now we found where we're going to load the whole weight. Then we come up and we look at these spaces the architect is telling us to use, to be used this way. How stable are they? How usable are they? And if you go to high-rise building, after what we call the equivalent of 15 meters tall, the horizontal effect starts to take place in the building. The wind is pushing it very heavily. At that 5th, 6th level, we are not talking about the weight. Now we are talking about the horizontal movement of the building, which is very crucial, and it also varies region to region.
Yes.
The Rift Valley is different from Nairobi, and even in Nairobi, various sectors differ because the winds are different. And with that, we go to the other aspect of earthquake. When the earthquake comes, however small, how will it vibrate in this building? In Rift Valley, the earthquakes are not to be. Well, there's an earthquake map we use.
Yes.
And we have to put all these issues into play and make sure the architect has his space the way he wants it. And then come to the QS and ask him, will this developer manage? That is why in the industry, there are many things we need to give respect to. Just like we respect a doctor. He talks to you 5 minutes on the way out, the secretary stops you, tells you, bring 5,000, you don't bargain. But with us, you want to bargain. But we'll go into that later.
We'll come to that in a bit.
Yes.
But let me come to you, Alfred. You know, just from what engineer is saying, just looking at these aspects that are vital to ensure the structural integrity of this building, come what may, whatever environmental factors that may come up in future, which we are not in control of, that brings me to emerging trends that we, the common Mwananchi, want to be incorporated into these structures that, from your standing as the quantity surveyor, clearly see are not practical in this particular area or for this particular kind of structure that they want to put up. What would you have to say about that?
That's why we are called a team. Once you come up with the requirements and we discover we feel that what you are suggesting may not work, we discuss as a team. We look at what is to be done. You want this one, we discuss with you.
Yes.
We tell you, yes, you want this one to be done, but according to probably the bylaws, it is not possible. Probably you, according to the things you want, it may not be good for neighbors. So it's a whole teamwork. It's an issue of discussing both as a team and with you as the client. We tell you this cannot work, this can work, and then how can we adjust so that we can accommodate your desires without offending the environment and so on and so forth.
All right. And that also brings me to you, John, just looking at the emerging trends that are in the architectural space, how would you say they are keeping up with the times, and especially looking at these modern structures that we are seeing in this day and time? How are we doing in terms of, as a country, in terms of keeping up with the emerging trends from an architectural standing?
Let me say this.
Fancy buildings, in layman's language.
Buildings,
yes.
I think it's a culture that we have in ourselves. Monkey say, monkey do.
Yeah.
You know, these are buildings that we see in other countries abroad, Dubai's and you know, the States, the UK's. But if you look at the context of having that building here, other than the aesthetics, does it meet other factors? Does it marry well with our climatic factors? Yeah, one. Two, there's some other factors that we consider other than the climatic factors. Yes, they look good. They look so flamboyant. They look nice, flashy. Let's avoid that culture of copy-pasting, copying buildings from abroad and planting them here. We can at least if you tell me you want something like that, I'm sure any architect that you engage will try and localize, let me say, customize it to the local conditions here.
As close
to as it is, because to try as much as possible to marry. There's so many other factors that we need to consider here that needs to be involved and be designed for in a building. Okay. So yeah, it's there, and I appreciate the fact that we have guys who are the developers who have the guts to bring those, you know, ideas here and try and plant them into the architect and say, I just want this. But I would also urge the developers, the same developers, let's also listen to the architects as well. We are trained for this so that we can know how to customize your desires locally
to the most practical option that can be available.
Let me add on to what my colleague has said.
Sure.
From what I have gone through, a client came to me and told me, I want you to get me an architect who will give me this design. He had bought that design on this Uhuru Highway. Those people who sell
those drinks. Booklets, I have seen them.
So I told him, he was my friend. I told him, yes, it looks nice, but this is a Scandinavian design. You know, those big roofs, a roof that comes there that nearly touches the ground. And the reason why they have those roofs is because of snow.
The weather,
So that when snow comes on, it falls off. So I told him, look, here, yes, it looks nice, but it may not be the best one here, because here we don't have snow. Number two, the most expensive thing on this building will be the roof.
I know.
So, because the timber that will be used, the tiles or whatever that will be used will be so huge. And when you go about, so you better think about it. So you find that what he's saying, copy pasting, is very real, and very many of us are really going into that.
Yeah, there's a tweet here that has come in through my DM. They're asking, or rather, it's a comment pointing out the fact that we need to keep up with the trends, as in Dubai, the building that has shifting floors, which keeping up with the trends, but then again the whole practicality bit comes into question. All right, now let's talk a bit about the quality of material that we have in our country, because I feel that is also part of the structural integrity as a whole. And let me start with you, Engineer Goro. Looking at the quality of even the stones, you know, I find that what is put at the foundation is different from what is put on the skeleton. What advises such things, and especially just generally looking at the quality of material that goes into every step of the building?
This is a very practical aspect that most developers have gone through and have come out crying because of not respecting the quality of stone. Varies from where it comes from. The quality of sand also varies as to where you're going to put it. These materials, given respect, have to be put in specific places. Let's start with natural available material.
Yes.
The stone. The stone you put in the foundation could differ from the stone you put in the open air. Because in the foundation there is underground water. It might soften and crumble. So you need a special stone for foundation. On top of the soil, you might need a different stone depending on what the architect and the developer wants the features to look like. And then the thickness of that stone might come into the play of the structural engineer, because you need it to carry the load down.
This amount of weight,
Or if you don't want it, then you have to put columns and beams.
Yes.
Then it comes to the next guy, is the sand. There is a lot of fundis, there's a lot of suppliers that are supplying things they're calling sandy material, which is not applicable, because one, it will not give you the strength required.
Yes.
It gives you a lot of impurities, but the very good available sand is very easily tested. And for anybody who wants to build it, pick a heap of sand, rub it between your hands, shake your hands off. If you are left with the dust, don't use that sand. That's the test.
Simple test.
The test.
Yes.
Of good quality sand.
Yes.
I'm going to try that. I will walk to a random construction site and try that.
Two, leaving the sand, we come to the other aggregates.
Yes.
We call ballast. The size of that ballast, kokoto matters, the size of the pebbles. They have to be mixed with a certain specific ratio so that you can attain a certain strength of that concrete you're doing. 3, come to cement.
Yeah,
there are a lot of cement, fake cement.
Yes.
It is available in document. The good structural cement available in Kenya is only made by 2 companies. And you can find out which companies are this. I'm not here to market anybody. No.
Yes.
All the others are fake. They're used for plastering or mortar or anything like that. But only those 2 can make structural cement. With a good understanding on the ratios of this sand, ballast, cement, you can achieve a lot of strength with your concrete, and you can be able to carry a lot of loading. The architect cannot be able to give you a bedroom of 7 meters by 7 meters.
With a wall-to-wall closet.
So we need to pay attention to this specification. But the fundi, most of the fundis, 90% of the fundis will not tell you, take sand and do like this and it's bad sand. They won't tell you because they want a job, they want to con you money. Just like in the computer commutation world of matatus. They are good matatus, they are bad matatus.
So there's also responsibility.
Taxis also.
Yeah.
Like from the airport to town at 8 o'clock at night, if you take, what are they called? This registered framework, let's not discuss the name, is about 300 shillings.
Yes.
But if you take the taxi driver at the airport, it's 1,000 bob. So go the former way.
Okay.
Yes.
So you as the client, as the owner of this potential structure, have a lot of responsibility to also
guide.
Due diligence is important.
And then we, as a team, we are responsible for the contractor, the implementer, and what it does for you and your money. So the contractor is very crucial and is very, very expensive to you, the developer, if he is not controlled by the professionals.
Okay. Now, let me bring in this tweet by Kifuri. I'm saying it as a true Kikuyu. Kifuri. They are saying, we see so many grand structures done by the Chinese in our country, and arguably so, their work seems to be better than what the local professionals have to offer. Full stop. Let me leave it at that point. Let me start with you, John. Just looking at the Chinese effect, as Engineer Goro called it, what do you make of such? The fact that even a common Mwananchi feels that what the Chinese offer in our Kenyan space seems to be of better integrity than what our local professionals have to offer.
How do I dissect that question?
However you choose to.
No,
let's start with the fact that we have so many Chinese putting up grand projects in our country.
Maybe the way to dissect it is what are they calling local people? Local people are not professionals. Look at local professionals and compare with the Chinese.
Actually, he's hit it. In a construction, there are 2 phases. There's a design phase and there's a construction phase. I think what he's talking about is the construction bit of it.
Yes.
I can assure you that all the buildings that you see here are not, what do I say? I don't think there's any Chinese professional involved. Even the law of Kenya does not allow, and you'll guide me, senior here, you will not allow foreign professionals unless they are legally registered to practice, to practice in Kenya.
Okay.
To draw. To draw.
Okay.
So, yes, the construction could look like the Chinese, what they're doing is
quote unquote better
than what the locals are doing. But the professional bit of it, I'm 100% sure there's no way it was done by the Chinese. Most of those buildings have been done by local professionals, or they've gone through a local expert before they're implemented on the ground. So if we're talking about the buildings, let's differentiate the 2. Are we talking about the design phase, or are we talking about the construction bit of it?
Okay. Maybe you could specify that if you have the information to help you tell the difference, okay? Now, and also, let me also hear from you, Alfred, you know, just looking at this Chinese effect and this perception that even our viewer has, foreign is better than local.
That's a perception. That's a perception because...
Misguided, misinformed?
Misinformed. Because even when you look at that site for being done by the Chinese, even in the construction bit itself, you'll find that the Chinese are not the ones carrying the stone and placing it there. They're the Kenyans. Yeah, they are the Kenyans. And when you look at even the way things have been placed, it's just the Kenyans. Now, also the Chinese have got a slight advantage in the area of financing. They get a lot of support from their home country. They seem to have an arrangement with their government, their banks, to give them cheap money, and then they are able to bring in a lot of material and put it up quickly, and the things that they have brought from home. So if there are tiles, they are brought from home, although tiles are found locally. If whatever, everything, they bring a shipload of all those materials cheaply made from their home, and the Kenya government appears not to be taxing them because probably they may have bilateral understanding.
Agreements, yeah.
And then, but the Kenyan contractors, you'll find that they are now being taxed, and they have to buy local materials here at a very high level, very expensively. So you find that they start struggling. The Kenyans definitely start struggling because they have to go to the bank, get a loan, a very high interest rate, and they when they delay them paying, they start struggling. For these people, they have brought a full shipload of everything, bang. So you can't compare. It's like comparing oranges and
mangoes.
Yeah.
All right, Engineer Goro, as we bring this segment to a close.
This Chinese factor, like our QS says, they have advantage in a lot of things, both by the blessings of where they come from or their financial institutions, which we are not having here. But they have even more blessings that even the laws in Kenya, they break them and they are allowed to break them by the police. Quote one, I saw a Chinese lorry without a number plate. The driver is a Kenyan, doesn't have a driving license. He doesn't have an identity card. And unfortunately, he hit my car and was let go by the Kenyan police in Langata. I go back to the public road without paperwork. So they have got a lot of advantage. And with that advantage, you've seen in the social media, like the Cameroon or Korea, somewhere in West Africa, they beat up the local people because the local people have to do what they want. So we, Kenyans, are actually letting them do. Like that traffic police lady of Langata, why did he let a guy without a driving license drive a very big truck into a public road after having hit another car, and that car unfortunately was mine. And it was not a small car.
And you happen to know a few things about the law.
So we like importing this material, like the QS says.
It's cheaper for
them.
them.
How are they bringing them here? And then the Kenyan is being taxed, the contractor in Kenya has to spend more money than the Chinese. And it seems to look like they can do better. But also, they are not helping share information with Kenyans. I led a team from the Association of Consulting Engineers to visit the construction of this highway on top of Uhuru Highway. And I asked Kenya, why is your contractor? Because he is not sharing this information with us. Like the case says, there's nothing new here. It's only that they're getting it cheaper, so they're able to hire bigger equipment and do it. But we can do it, but they don't want to share. There's nothing built in Kenya without the local authority having a copy in English. The University of Nairobi was given a free construction, the Confucius Center. They tried to submit drawings in City Hall in Chinese. They tried to bribe City Hall. Unfortunately, I was sitting in the board.
You needed the English copy.
And they had to do it the English way.
Okay.
Yes. So they ask local authority, the arm of the government, is not helping the building industry manage the Chinese factor.
Okay. Loopholes that clearly are affecting or disadvantaging the local professionals for that matter. Now, we are almost out of time, but as we close this conversation, let me start with you, John. Just looking at the common Mwananchi, where they stand, and helping them understand that you as an architect needs to be allowed to do your job professionally in order to ensure that they get value for their money, as much or as little as it may be.
Sorry?
For the common Mwananchi, to understand the importance of an architect in whatever building they want to or construction they want to venture into.
Like I earlier said, the earlier you engage the professionals in your whatever scale of building, even if it's just a latrine, the earlier you engage a professional,
as simple or grand as it may be.
As simple or as grand as it is, it will be for the mutual and benefit of you. Planning from the word go. Planning from the word go, it will help you save what you're looking to save when you're trying to do those shortcuts.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Alfred, your advice to our viewers as well, the importance of involving a quantity surveyor, tuache kujiestimate hapa ndichaji simiti 50, lori mbili za mawe, kokoto mbili na changarawe lori 3 zitatosha ama wilbaro 10.
Yes. I think, let me put it this way. When we bring in the issue of, say, the quantity surveyor, after having my colleagues having designed, we come up with what we call the specification of the various materials to be put in that building. Take an example. If you come into the foundations, we specify the mixes in the ratios. If it is the stone that you are talking about, the type of stone to be put in that place. If there are tiles, the particular tiles, if it is an heavy traffic area, we know which type of tiles to put there. If it is even paint, we specify. So the quantity surveyor will specify and come up with a document called bills of quantities, which the quantity surveyor will help you use even going to tender. When you go to tender and you get bids, the quantity surveyor will help you to tell you which contract among these ones is the best. The lowest is not necessarily the best, because he could have made a big mistake and left out something, and we are the ones who can detect the mistake. The quantity surveyor will be the one who ran through the project as it's going through from the beginning to the end financially, advising you how much money to pay at whatever stage. The quantity surveyor in the end will tell you, Madam, you have your building now, you added, adjusted, removed things, the total cost is now this amount of money.
All right. Now, my producers tell me we are completely out of time, but I cannot wind. Forgive me, Mr. Director, before we get to hear Engineer Goro's closing remarks in less than 30 seconds. I don't want to get into trouble.
I appreciate the time factor. In the structural aspect of a building, whenever you see a crack, don't tell the fundi to repair it unless somebody tells you what cost the crack.
Okay.
Thank you.
Simple, short and sweet. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We have been speaking with Engineer Evans Goro. He's a civil and structural engineer. We also have Alfred Aluvaala, who is a quantity surveyor, as well as John Mwaniki, who is an architect. As you venture into your structural visions and dreams, be sure to involve professionals to avoid long-term losses, which you could have avoided if you involved a professional from the get-go. Stay with us. We have so much more still coming up after this break.